So, good morning everybody. A very warm welcome to you all to join this session today, the Gen Z Hong Kong, how should brands engage them? Today is a very exciting day to us. For the first time in 3 years, we start our first physical event here today to welcome all of our friends and our clients here. So your presence here means a lot to us. It marks the beginning of our path to go back to the normal, and also your vote of confidence and trust in us. So thank you for coming to join us and support us. Today we will talk about the Gen Z. So Gen Z, we usually refer to the individuals who were born between 1997 and 2012. For these generations, they grow up with the digital development, living with the smartphone, under the high-speed internet, as well as they were exposed to the social media platform. In Hong Kong, according to the government statistical data, around 10% of the total populations are the Gen Z. We have a similar proportion in China. Around 60% of the total population in China are the Gen Z. So although you may argue that for these generations, they may just represent a very small scale of the local economy at the moment, but we all agree that they should be the customer of the future. So which means that there could be a huge opportunities for the business to come in the years. In order to stay ahead of the market, all the clients like you on here, definitely we want to start to build the trust with these generations. So which means that we have to understand what they want, what they need, and what they are expecting from the brands. To me, I'm not an expert of the Gen Z because I've got a daughter who falls into that generation, but honestly, I don't really understand her. Even what she say, I don't understand. So therefore, I won't consider myself as the expert. So that's why we have Joeri today. So as mentioned by Daphne, he is the co-founder of our Insights Consulting. So he is the thought leadership, and he will go to share some of his insights and learnings about the Gen Z in Hong Kong and China in terms of well-being, financial literacy, and their expectations towards the brands. And also, we will have a panel discussion to be moderated by Scott. So that he will speak to some of our industry leaders here to tell you more about their thoughts on Gen Z. So I would like to take this chance to thank you, Amy, the head of personal banking from HSBC, Heyman, the chief customer officers from Bank, and Nick, the head of customer insights from Cathay Pacific, to join us today. And finally, I will pass this to Eva, our qualitative head, to talk about to talk to some Gen Z directly, so that you can use the QR code, send them some questions to listen to the voice of the Gen Z directly. I promise a very rewarding experience for you in this session today, and I hope you will enjoy it. So maybe let us start our first session. So let me introduce Joeri to be on stage to kickstart off our event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eddie. Good morning, everyone. Glad I'm back in Hong Kong after so many years in physical way. So the title of my presentation is Are You Okay, Zoomers? Obviously, I'm not a Zoomer anymore, unfortunately. But I have two Zoomer daughters, aged 14 and 18. And they often refer to me when I ask something, they say, okay, Boomer. So this is my revenge, calling the presentation Okay, Zoomers. But also, it is, are you okay, Zoomers? Because to be honest, lately I've been a bit worried about my own daughters. I've been questioning myself, are they still happy? Are they still feeling okay? Because we all had the lockdowns and the pandemic, and of course, no one really liked it. But if you're their age, 14 and 18, when normally life should be fun, it can even have a bigger impact, especially because they're still in their formative years. So I try to talk to them, just like Eddie, but to really understand the generation, we need research, right? I'm a researcher. So we did a global research, of which we will present the Chinese and the Hong Kong data today. And to tap into the first theme already, we asked them how are they feeling mentally. And as you can see, almost 6 out of 10 of Gen Z in Hong Kong is saying I'm feeling stressed to highly stressed, which is quite high. Also, if you compare it to the global data, it's higher than in other markets. It's also higher than on China mainland, where it's 42%, which is still high compared to other levels. So yes, they're struggling with stress, and if we ask what are the reasons you feel stressed, you can see that here in Hong Kong, the main reason is maybe it's a bit related to the pandemic, like disrupted education, disrupted job prospects, but it's also, of course, related to how the economy is evolving. But you can see that the number one stressor, so this is on the 6 out of 10 that says I'm feeling stressed or highly stressed, is my job or my studies. There's a lot of pressure on these young kids and teens, teenagers, young adults to perform, to find a nice job, but also to do well in their uni studies. And this is also the case on China, in China mainland, where you can also see my job, my studies compared to all the generations is really the number one stressor, along with financial worries, family situation. And then the third one is quite interesting, and I will come back to that later on. Now coming back to job, we know that we come out of this culture of 996, working from 9 to 9, 6 days a week. And there's been written a lot in the press about the lie-down movement, which is not what we see in research. So it's not that Chinese young people or Hong Kong young people here are saying, okay, now let's relax, we don't work hard anymore, we don't study hard anymore. That's not the case at all. It's only a very small fragment that is really feeling this lie-down attitude, whereas most of them are more in the 45 degrees way of looking at things, and trying to balance between working all the time and still finding some other things in life. And trying to balance that, that's really the situation we see nowadays. As mentioned before, there's another big thing happening among this generation, and it is comparing myself to others. And of course, there's social media play an important role, because 24/7 we continuously see what our friends are doing, if they're having more fun than us, there's status anxiety. So it builds up stress. It also builds up beauty ideals. This is a campaign of Unilever brand Dove that found out in market research that 7 out of 10 Chinese women are actually retouching their selfies before posting it online. 7 out of 10, which is it's quite a lot. And Dove says this is bad because you're not only removing impurities from your skin or freckles, but you're also removing your confidence, because it leads to lower self-esteem if you compare your picture on social media with how you look like in the mirror. So it leads to anxieties. And in this campaign, My Beauty, My Say, they followed several Chinese women talking openly about their beauty anxieties and also showing their real pictures, unedited pictures, to show how they really look like. And so this confidence, this self-esteem, it's another crisis, you could say. 6 out of 10 of Generation Z in Hong Kong, and 6 out of 10 also, 59% China mainland, is often lacking confidence in our research. So you could probably say, instead of needing more energy with Red Bull energy drinks, they need more confidence. And this is actually a functional drink that already exists, and it's giving ingredients like herbal ingredients, magnesium, rhodiola, B vitamins, GABA, to have a boost of confidence rather than a boost of energy or caffeine or taurine, which is actually what this generation needs. Now, luckily, increasingly we see that in insurance, for instance, insurance companies are there to help the young generations. This is an example of Bergh Life Insurance that did the hashtag It Is Beautiful campaign, in which they wanted to show that it is actually beautiful to be young. because you can do so many things that you cannot do anymore if you're older. So this portrayal of how it is to be young, and also a campaign to say, listen, you have to be more confident, believe in yourself, and believe in your country. It is quite important, and of course, the insurance company linked some products to important things in life as well, which is actually what Generation Z wants. 6 out of 10 of Gen Z in Hong Kong and 74% in China mainland says, I'm willing to pay more for brands that are supporting me in my daily life. This is an example coming from Europe or from the UK. It's an alcohol-free beer called Freestar. And during the lockdowns, what they saw is also in the UK that many young people lost their jobs, because many of them student jobs are working in hospitality, in restaurants, in bars, or in shops that were all closed during the lockdown. So they started this WhatsApp hotline, a mentoring hotline in which young people could get advice on how to apply for a new job. So they got some tips when they were doing a job interview, when they were writing a resume, to really get ready to find a new job. And as a beer brand or an alcohol-free beer brand, they were there to support this young generation. More locally here, we saw Baidu in China launching virtual emotional companions, these two, a girl and a boy, that are always there to talk to virtually. And in the trial period, they saw that people used it like 50 times a day. They chatted with their virtual emotional friend 15 times a day when they felt lonely or wanted someone to talk to. And most of them were also happy with the themes of the conversation as well. Again, in insurance, October, we just had October, which was the mental health month globally, but also in Hong Kong. And we saw some of our clients like VUCA and AXA that were really tapping into this mental health space, working together with Cool Minds, a mental health company, to create digital art therapy for VUCA. And then AXA did this Better Me weekend also with these nice movies. So this first theme was all about mental health. Yes, young people are often feeling stressed out and lack confidence. And on social media, sometimes they also have this comparison with others, which builds up stress. But their brands, not only in insurance, but also in banking, in other categories, also give the example of a beer brand, even, or beverage brands, can be a life coach to help them through their daily mental struggles. Now, the second theme is, how are youngsters coping with this mental health, with these stress problems? And one way of de-stressing or escaping from mental health problems is humor, obviously, and being creative. So, as you can see, I have to find words or terms that have okay in it to do this visual trick. So jokey, you could also call it playfulness, humoristic. It is quite important for young people. One example coming from Europe is this Swedish insurance company that did a large out-of-home campaign at the start of the academic year, stating, go get in trouble. It's hashtag insurance, and then of course they said, and you can sign up for a student insurance for your kids for so many Swedish crowns a month. They're covered for everything that they do wrong. The picture you see to the right, it looks like a vandalized billboard, but it was just part of the campaign. So they vandalized it themselves, you could say, to underline the statement of go get in trouble and then to sell the student insurance. And it's this type of humor that is really loved by this young generation. And again, we see in the Hong Kong figures that both millennials, Gen Y, but also Gen Z, says, I like brands to have a sense of humor and playfulness. And it's also the way they communicate with each other, of course. They're not just sending text, they're creating videos, and they're sending memes to each other, which can also be something that can be used in campaigns, like Mars, for instance, did with his Skittles campaign.
CHD 是什么？
彩虹糖。 做些彩虹，吃定彩虹。
So of course young people have a bit their own slang language and are using a lot of acronyms. So playing with these acronyms, titles really work on this to address the young generation. So creativity is important for this generation as well. And of course, Adrian Cheng is one of the most influential people here in Hong Kong. And it's all about creativity. It's not just about shopping malls. If you look at the mall here at the Victoria waterfront, you can see that it's more of a museum actually than a mall. So it's a combination of creativity and culture and shopping in the end. This creativity, we can also see it in games. They have a metaverse mindset, you could call it. And when we talk about metaverse, they really see it as gaming. When you say metaverse, meta what? Yes, I like online gaming. Here in Hong Kong, you can see that almost half of Generation Z is playing online games. Not just to play the game, but also to chat, to hang out with friends in a virtual world, in a metaverse, in a gaming environment. So it's taking up a lot of time for them, which means that brands should be present in the metaverse or in gaming environments as well. Coca-Cola, for instance, already did this campaign with Coca-Cola Creations. With the QR code, you could see an online concert of Eva Max. You can also see, this is coming from Brazil. In Brazil, actually Pfizer, the creator of one of the corona vaccines, did this GTA mission in Grand Theft Auto, the game, where you had to vaccinate your avatar, and if your avatar was vaccinated, you received a longer lifetime during playing other missions in the game. They did it, of course, because they saw there was a little of resistance in Brazil to be vaccinated as Generation Z. But by doing so with avatars, it actually led to the pre and post tests. It led to more acceptance and more willingness to get vaccinated because they understood that, oh, my avatar is living longer in the game. Maybe I should do it for myself as well. And this avatar creation, also here in Hong Kong, Gen Z, 15% has created avatars and also paid for goodies for their avatars, which can be clothes, skin, shoes, but even a Coca-Cola for your avatar, why not in the online environment? 70% in China mainland in the past 6 days. So this creation of avatars and games, it is important to connect and stay relevant with Generation Z. And we can also see Coca-Cola working with WeChat and also with Tencent Music Entertainment Land to create games where when you buy a can, it leads to more credits and you can do more in the game. So it's combining the digital and the physical, what we call phygital, to really connect with this generation. For instance, within the game, you can meet with the metaverse avatar Yang Yang. So again, hanging out online in the game. And increasingly we see this fusion between physical and digital. This is Ayali. Ayali is almost human, you could say, but still a virtual influencer, used a lot, for instance, by Estee with Mac, where Ayali as a virtual influencer is using the makeup and doing a pop-up where they connect with the metaverse. This even leads to makeup trends. This is the hashtag meta makeup and hashtag AI goddess trends, where young people actually want to look like avatars. So they're using makeup to look more like an avatar, instead of the avatar looking more like humans. So of course this metaverse environment and gaming environment becomes more important. Recently Bruce Lee's home, one of the Hong Kong most famous celebrities, is also online in the metaverse. And of course, the Sandbox is also a Hong Kong Animoca brands created this new virtual presence, and HSBC was the first big bank actually to buy property in the Sandbox, and AXA from the insurance industry is doing the same, because they want to be present there to really connect with this younger generation. So this second theme was all about fun, humor, playfulness. Memes are important, creativity is important, and also being present in the metaverse and giving that platform for creativity and escapism for this young generation. We cannot talk about Gen Zs without talking about their wokeness. And often you say, yeah, are they really woke, or do they talk about being woke? So are they really interested? And yes, they are. So in our research, we see they want to see brands. They say it's highly important for brands to take care of their employees, to give back to society, donations to charity, and to support social issues. And again, you see this is also the case for millennials, Generation Y, here in Hong Kong, but it's also significantly higher for Generation Z. And of course, because of the pandemic, it even accelerated more. Social issues became even more important. So 1/2 of Generation Z wants to pay more for brands that are owned by ethnic groups less presented. And this is much higher in China mainland. And also sustainability is important, of course. 64% wants to pay more for sustainable brands, which is, of course, increasingly becoming more important to connect with young generations. The Ant Financial Group and Alipay work together with, I'm sure you know this better than me, to create your virtual tree, really based on your own sustainable activities. If you walk, or you take your bike, or you share bikes, you make electronic payments, your tree is growing. So it's kind of a gamification of your own sustainable behavior, which was really popular and really worked. Another thing is gender stereotypes, where we see that 70% says there are still too many gender stereotypes this is China mainland, but also 65% says there are too many gender stereotypes here in Hong Kong. So increasingly we see brands working on that. This is coming from Singapore, where Atomy is offering a buy now, pay later service. And they're working together with Shein, of course, an important e-commerce fashion shop, but also with K-pop ambassadors, like this one, Astro, often focusing around the theme of gender diversity and gender fluidity.
패션의 성별이 무슨 상관이야? 내 맘대로 입으면 안 된다고? 널 보여주는 걸 두려워하지 마. Own your expression. 잘 정해.
So that's one large example of Atomy. Coming back to gaming, also when it comes to creating avatars, young people are saying, yes, in a virtual world, I'm feeling more equal than in the real world. And again, we see this higher with NextGen, so with millennials and with Generation Z, a bit higher in the mainland than in Hong Kong. And this creates new opportunities. This is an example coming from the US, where Fox TV has created a new show, which can be seen as a crossover between Masked Singer on one hand and X Factor or The Voice on the other hand, using avatars to allow young people to participate in a talent show. And that looks like this.
Lost dreams and second chances are reignited when singers from all walks of life become the stars they've always dreamed of being. Look what we got here!
Growing up, people always judged me by the way I look and the way I sang, but I realized I don't have to be afraid.
In front of some of the biggest names in music, will.i.am, Alanis Morissette, Grimes, and Nick Lachey, as they search for the next generation superstar.
I can't wait to meet the human beings behind these alter egos.
An alter ego actually really helps me a lot in life.
I like that.
Yo, do that again, bro.
So this helps people who are maybe a bit more introverts to also participate in talent shows. And so this is the positive side of avatars also in the real world, you would say. So in this theme we talked about wokeness, how this young generation is looking for a social role of brands and how your brand should be a platform to create a better world or to have social impact in society. And there again, avatars and the metaverse can also play a role. And then I'm coming to the last part of the presentation, which is really about the future. So in this part, we asked them, how are you thinking about careers? How are you thinking about finances? And one thing was for sure, many of them are feeling uncertain. there is a lot of insecurity. Like 65% in Hong Kong, 60% in China mainland is saying I'm feeling uncertain about the future. Because the economy is changing, we have had a long period of prosperity, but today it is changing. And it will be hard actually to achieve what I was aiming to achieve. But on the other hand, we talked about the 45 degrees at the start, not the lie down movement. They know that they will have to work hard, and some of them, and most of them are actually already working hard and having side jobs apart from their studies, side hustles to earn extra money. In Hong Kong it's 48%, in China mainland 40% of Gen Z is already having a side hustle and working hard. And there's another thing, they're also quite hungry for entrepreneurship. Most of them would like to start their own company. 45% in Hong Kong, 64% on China mainland says I would like to start my own company. So it's a bit the dream to start your own company, to be your own boss. And of course, maybe this dream is not new, but because of the new platforms like Taobao, for instance, or Bilibili, or all the social media platforms, it became easier to become your own entrepreneur. Not necessarily a NASDAQ company, but maybe start off as an influencer and start your own business coming from your passion. And again, as mentioned, on Taobao, but also Bilibili on Red, it gives opportunities to start your own business. This is an example of Pudding Sister. Pudding Sister started actually by just sharing some pictures and stories about her pets. But today she's selling pets, food and pet stuff for 100,000 Chinese yuan a day. So really making a business of the pet food business, starting from just sharing some pictures. So that is a dream that many Gen Zers have actually. And money and status are important for not only the Hong Kong Gen Z, but also the mainland Gen Z, which also explains why they're very interested in financial advisors, robo-advisors. 36% of Hong Kong Gen Z is using robo-advisors. And of course, they are doing their finances online as well. Many of them are also following finfluencers. Almost 7 out of 10 China mainland, almost half in Hong Kong is following finfluencers. And that's not always a good thing, because I think they need trustworthy sources. And to give you one example, not coming from China, but from the US, sometimes influencers are not that trustworthy. Like this one, for instance.
$500,000 for my Rolls Royce, $750,000 for my Aventador, another $250,000 for a few other cars each. How do I have this at 22 years old? Let me tell you, it's NFTs. If you're not capitalizing on this multi-billion-dollar market, you've got it all wrong. Join my Discord and I'm going to teach you exactly how to get into this industry, whether you have little to no money, a medium amount of money, or a high intensive amount of capital to generate massive revenue. Join the Discord.
I wouldn't like my daughters to really invest their money, their allowance with this guy. So I'm glad that there is more trustworthy parties that are increasing the digital literacy with talking about fintech and actually creating more awareness about fintech and what it means to this young generation. When we look at the type of investments that Gen Z is doing, we see that NFTs, for instance, here in Hong Kong, 1 out of 10 of Generation Z, 12% of millennials, because most of them are working, so they have more money, has already invested in NFTs. Also in crypto here in Hong Kong, 18%, quite high. But they're also investing in streetwear. Streetwear not to buy Nikes and then to wear them, because then they lose their value, but actually to invest in limited edition Nikes and then sell them. So keep them in the box, don't wear them, and then resell them on platforms like Lovelship and earn some money from selling sneakers in the end. So it's not a coincidence that luxury fashion brands like Gucci are already active in the metaverse and creating digital goodies or NFTs, like this handbag, for instance. I'm sure you recognize this. This is the Queen Dionysus handbag of Gucci, which costs $3,400 in a Gucci physical store, a lot of money. But on Roblox, quite popular with Generation Z, they sold the same handbag during a very limited time for $5.50. So if you were happy enough to be on Roblox on that moment, you could buy it for $5.50. And one girl was able to buy it and then resell it pure digitally. It's a pixeled handbag for more than $4,000, more than a physical handbag actually costs in the physical Gucci store. So you can see NFTs, it can also be a good investment sometimes. So this last part, we talked about finance, about how they are already hustling hard, how they really hunger to start their own enterprise, and how money is important, and where we can play a role to increase the financial literacy of our youth, supporting them as micro-entrepreneurs, but also giving them the information they need. That's it, the 4 teams. Thanks a lot for your time.